Has anyone heard of Old Elk and tried Old Elk, or is this new to the folks on the line?
First time for me.
First time for me as well.
New, yeah.
Same. It's a pretty unique, I think, I wouldn't want to steal anybody's thunder, but who they're owned by and how it started, I think it's extremely interesting. So I'll save that for you, Greg, or Alex.
Yeah, gladly answer any questions everybody has along the way. Feel free to ask them. It's really your event, not ours. So it's all about you guys.
I just want to make a statement. I think, Greg, you got the best job in the world, man.
Well, I'm not complaining.
Sorry. Todd knows me real well, and I had to throw that out there.
That's great. I'm sure you hear that a lot, right, Greg?
Yeah, we're all envious. We're all envious, Greg.
Yeah, you should see my kitchen table about 9 in the morning during the week. Some days I've got 35 samples set up.
Oh, that's great.
Somebody has to do it.
Somebody's got to do it. Might as well be you.
Yeah.
So why don't I kick it off here, Sarah, and get rolling, and then, like I said, I think we had a little over 40 people that responded, and I don't know, I think we got
Almost 35.
Almost 35. So we'll kick it off, in respect of everybody's time, and we could not be more excited about it. It's combining the relationship that we have with Lenovo and them leading the conversation today about the hybrid cloud solutions, and just talking really high level just about the challenges I think we all know and face in today's day and age of where those workloads fit, where it makes sense, where it doesn't, and they've done a lot of great things. It's a very, very strategic relationship for CE Tech. We can't thank you enough. My name is Todd Cronin, by the way. I'm Vice President of Business Development here. I know I have a few of my colleagues here on the line, Neil DeMartinez, Vice President of Sales, Sarah from the marketing side, Jim Tolan, I see on the sales side. I don't see any other names, but greatly appreciate you guys taking the time, one, to spend it with us this afternoon. Bourbon does help kind of draw you in a little bit, and it's great to see some of the familiar faces that have joined us for some of these events. Like I said, the relationship with Lenovo it's extremely solid. This is a strategic relationship of ours. It's been very wildly successful to date. We're psyched to have you guys hear the story of why that has been, and really, like I said, it's really just a conversation of where they see the whole cloud environment, where it is today, and some of the things that they've done to really head off those challenges and help the customer base with trying to navigate it. And I think you'll be impressed by the story. And then we'll add the Old Elk side of it. Sarah did, for those of you who didn't hear, Sarah shared a link. She shared it with me this morning, and I clicked on it for Greg Metze, master distiller, 40 plus years. I won't steal your thunder, Greg, but whoever produced that, it was pretty cool. It really got me in the zone for it. So I suggested we share it before you start, but I think because of some of the latency stuff, we tried it before everybody jumped on. It's sketchy at best. So we'll leave it to you guys all to enjoy and click on thereafter if that works. But I do advise you to check it out. But I don't want to hold you up. I know we do have a relationship also. I want to make sure I point out Norfolk Wine and Spirit. Some of you won't have access to them because of the geographic location, but we put out, they've generously sponsored the event from a Zoom standpoint, as well as putting if you go in and enter a code, you can do it online. Sarah was probably going to,
Yep, that's correct.
educate me here, but 10% off on all Old Elk for a time being if you enter CE Tech in the shopping list. So feel free to take advantage of that. And first, I'll just say, for Ryan and Johnny, friends of ours here from Lenovo, are going to lead us through that conversation, and then Greg and Alex are gonna walk us through the Old Elk conversation. Please keep this very open and enjoyable, right? Ask any questions you may have. Once you see Greg's video, you'll know he's got so much history and so much hands-on experience with this. So I know, Kevin Nobley out there, I know you have a lot of interest in this world and enjoy it, right? From a just history and the science of it all, I guess I'll say. But so yeah. Enjoy this process and ask any questions that may come up. I'm sure Greg and Alex would love to jump all over. Any questions before we get going? No? Anybody start drinking already?
No.
No, not yet. All right, that's good. That at least let the Lenovo guys get through their pitch before everybody's feeling good. So with that, I will hand this off to Ryan and Johnny. You guys take it from there, and thank you again very much from the bottom of our hearts for joining us. It's a great pleasure to have you all here. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Todd. I appreciate that. Hey, everyone. My name is Ryan Warwick. I'm the end user account executive for Lenovo Data Center Group. I cover the Northeast. For many of you, I'm the point person, end user contact here at Lenovo for any of the solutions that Johnny's going to go over today. Hybrid cloud and just cloud strategy in general is something we a lot of conversations that we're having with customers, since the world somewhat changed a bit. We're seeing a lot of customers re-examine their cloud strategy, and we have a lot of conversations around some of the hybrid cloud solutions that we offer in our Think Agile portfolio. So briefly, just want to introduce myself and let you guys know who I am. And I want to thank CE Tech and Old Elk for putting this on today, and I look forward to the tasting. John, if you want to go ahead and kick us off, we'll get going.
Sure. Can you guys hear me? Coming through all okay? Awesome. So I'm Johnnie Jordan. I actually am the senior solution architect that works in the channel, directly tied to CE Tech, and their overwhelming success and continued success as they go through and keep making money and keep providing solutions for customers. I'm here to enable and excite them and partner with them truly. And today we're going to talk about hybrid cloud solutions, right? Part of this, I'm going to turn off my videos just to save the bandwidth. So I'll be going through a couple of slides, but feel free to ask questions if you need me to slow down a little bit. I have a tendency coming from the Northeast to talk a little bit fast and get to the point. You can't hurt my feelings. I have a tough skin, so if it doesn't sound right, doesn't seem right, or you want some more clarifications on something, just let me know and I'll be able to, answer in time. So with that being said, what I'll do is I'll start the process. And like Ryan said, we've had a couple of different conversations, many in fact, with our customer base, right? For customers, meaning end user customers as well as partners. And the hybrid cloud concept is something that is, I want to say it's a marketer's dream, right? Because, it's a new thing, it's shiny, it's a buzzword that's out there in the industry, but in fact, it's nothing really new. It's really talking about the hybrid IT services that are delivered from a public and a private cloud experience. And we'll get into the definition of what a cloud is in short order. So with that being said, let's kick it off. All right, so when talking about a cloud, as per Gartner and as for a lot of other smart people that are out there, the cloud is not an end goal. It's not a destination, right? It's actually a consumption model. It's a lot of confusion that's out there. And again, it's the marketers, the software vendors and startups. They want to capitalize on the buzz. So they think the cloud, and just mentioning hybrid cloud or private cloud or public cloud, just cloud in general, is their golden ticket, right? But the reality, it's not a product or a particular technology, but a rather a combination of many capabilities that enable the delivery of IT infrastructure, the resources, the applications, the services. And this all is delivered on demand or by subscription, right? So these cloud capabilities require like an agile operation model that can be dynamically scaled and tuned in response, or even in anticipation of the changing consumer requirements. So that on-demand capability, that ability to take capacity and to address performance in terms of compute, networking, and storage resources is that cloud model. It is that adaptability that allows us to reactively or proactively adjust in order to suit the changing demand. So again, it's not a place. The cloud can be delivered anywhere. It can be on-prem, off-prem, in your data center, someone else's data center, or both, right? And that gets to that hybrid cloud piece. And it's also not virtualization. So a lot of conversations around, can I just throw a HCI solution and does that give me the cloud? The HCI solutions and the conversations around virtualization allows you to have those component level building blocks that are critical to deliver a cloud, but it's not actually a cloud in itself. So just keep that in mind. And I think it's important for us to understand that because a lot of the conversations around the buzzwords causes a lot of confusion. So being that the cloud is an outcome and it's not a destination, every customer that I've ever talked to are on different journeys and on different paths and on different roads to the cloud experience, right? Fortunately enough, you know, Lenovo has had a long history of experience in dealing with, you know, the cloud itself in terms of what we use internally, as well as what we do to enable our customers and our partner community to actually leverage a private cloud, you know, a hybrid cloud, a turnkey cloud, or the building blocks, you know, to deliver infrastructure as a service, which is IaaS, you know, platform as a service, or software as a service, like a Office 365 or Workday or Salesforce implementation. And it's all customized. And so based off of our experience, we believe that we have the capabilities, the resources, the complete strategy to address all of those needs. So when customers talk about a cloud-first strategy, the first thing that comes to mind is that it's a public experience, right? It's a public cloud experience, and it's only a public cloud. So it's only AWS, or it's only Azure, or it's only Google Cloud Platforms. In reality, it's a combination, right? And customers ultimately learn that along the journey, in order for them to realize the full promise of a cloud agility, they can't be limited by simplistic thinking that it's just one cloud. Instead, they actually realize the full promise of a cloud when they look at a more diversified approach that accounts for off-premise, that accounts for a managed private cloud instance, or a turnkey private cloud. And that's the way that they actually realize the benefits of a cloud and actually align that to their strategic objectives. So why cloud? The cloud delivery consumption model offers the following benefits. It gives you a simplified automated consumption of IT resources. And what that means is I want to be able to just click and get the stuff that I need, you know, without any overhead, without having to talk to my SAN administrator or my network administrator or go out there and procure equipment. I just want to get what I wanted. And that's the way of the world right now. You know, AWS, just in terms of Amazon, if I can take it, you know, a little step back and talk personally, if my order doesn't come in 2 days, you know, I have a problem, right? I want to click that button. I'm almost looking for instantaneous delivery of my product to my house. This is the same type of experience that we've been conditioned with just in our personal life. So when we start talking about the professional life and in that arena of IT, we want the same type of response. We want that on-demand access. We want that simplified, easy button to click. Now, the value of the cloud offers that, but it's not without some upfront work and some effort, right? As an IT provider, you know, CE Tech, for example, they want to help our customers, you know, remove the burden of the integration, the low-level IT infrastructure build-out. They want to provide that pathway to the cloud, right? And then there's also the final end stage where you have an automation of all of the detailed requirements, right? So basically what you want to do is you want to say, hey, I need to have a couple of VMs spent up. I definitely need to have some applications loaded on there. And I want to be able to charge back. I want to be able to monitor it. I want to do capacity planning, the whole nine. So you look at something where you talk about the reduction of the minimization of the administrative effort. And this is all part of that cloud story. And at first you may think, hey, you know, this is just something that we want to stand up and it could be easy because you talked about it being easy. But the reality of it, it's not that easy, right? So we want to explore why the cloud exists, you know, the who, what, the wheres, and we want to take a little bit deeper dive into that. But before I go there, any questions with anything that I've stated so far? Any objections? Do you believe my story? Do you think that's what you're hearing out in the industry?
Correct.
Awesome, awesome, okay. So let's take a step back, right? We all know traditional infrastructure, right? We know the rack and stack, we know the servers, the storage, we know the applications that have to come in play. We know the networking that's involved. And this is basically what we live with today, right? We know that, we live that, we breathe that. And then we figured out hey, there's a smarter way to do that. And we introduced, somewhat of a integrated approach. And that was HCI. So HCI came about and it said, I'm going to take all of these components. I'm going to take the hardware stack and I'm going to put them behind a nice little GUI. And that's the promise, right? Those are your Nutanix of the world. Those of your VCFs of the world. And it's great, but it still doesn't mean cloud. There's still another level that has to happen with that, right? And then you have composable infrastructure. So the composable infrastructure piece says, okay, I got the HCI down, and I also have an interface that I'm gonna layer on top of that, and I'm gonna be able to independently scale and share my resources, and I'm gonna have pooled resources. But I still have some manual intervention that has to happen in order to, burst out or to contract my resources. I still need something more, right? So I state all of this because I want you to fully understand that whether it's a traditional infrastructure, whether it's HCI or composable infrastructure, we're still talking about IT as a service. And it doesn't deliver a cloud IT as a service. It helps and improves what we do traditionally, but it's still another layer that has to be factored into that. And this is not, based off of, my statement of work or anything like that. But if we go to the authority, NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, they talk about the essential characteristics of a cloud. So you're talking about broad network access. That means that there has to be accessibility for all, right? So you have to have that in place. You're looking at an on-demand automated self-service portal. Now you're starting to get into that cloud model, that easy button. Hey, I want to go to a simple interface and I just want to click and say, hey, I have these services available to me. You're talking about multi-tenancy. So it's not just enough to have, a single user on this particular platform, but you have to have multiple tenants. And in terms of the tenant conversation, you can have multiple tenants. It could be multiple lines of business within the same organization, or as an MSP, you can have multiple customer sets all leveraging this platform. And then you have to have a way to monitor that. You have to way to control that. You mean to report back. You have to be able to, provide capacity, performance metrics, and things of that nature. And then finally, it has to be elastic, right? So you have to be able to automatically provision, automatically scale, automatically contract those resources on demand based off of the workloads that are running. So when you talk about elasticity, you're talking about the ability to adjust the underlying infrastructure based off of the workload requirements. Sounds good? So
good.
Customers right now they're at a point where they're trying to decide between, do I go the HCI route or do I do the cloud route, right? And it's not an either or. Organizations that prefer to be more hands-on, they may go down the path of being more HCI focused, right? They want the ability to tinker. They want the ability to control the overall experience. They have actually had a huge investment in their underlying infrastructure. They have a huge investment and they want to leverage the skills that they develop over time. And this is in terms of human resources, right? So they have highly paid individuals that, they're not going away. They're just there. They want to maximize their capabilities. They want to leverage that skills that they have, but it's just a matter of how do I do that? So for them, HCI may be a better platform for them. On the cloud side, right? These are organizations that, they don't particularly consider IT as a critical resource to their business. They're more motivated in trying to find ways to reduce the overhead of the infrastructure operations. So they can focus on IT services being delivered and turning from a cost center into a profit center. So these organizations prefer more of a hands-off approach, right? They want the self-servicing capabilities and passing down that experience to their end user customers. And they're also looking to minimize the reliance on the specialized individuals that they have in their organization. So for the HCI side, they want to modernize and simplify their existing IT operations, but on the cloud side, they want to transform their operations and deliver IT as a service. But understand, ultimately, HCI sits at one end of the spectrum where more IT-centric organizations are looking for ways to modernize and simplify their existing IT operations, while the cloud delivery is more attractive to those who seek to fundamentally transform the way they provide IT to their businesses as a service. But keep in mind, it's important that you realize IT organizations can lie, anywhere along the spectrum, right? So at the beginning of the journey, HCI can be a strong foundational component, and they can ultimately end up and build to the fact that they realize the potential of a cloud delivery model at the other end of that spectrum. So we talked about IaaS, we talked about PaaS, and we talked about software as a service. I won't go through all of this right here in the sake of time, but I will say that from a infrastructure as a service model, this is the equivalent in the public cloud experience as a AWS EC2 instance, right? It's literally a VM that you're spinning up in the cloud. It's the Azure VM. It's the Google Cloud Platform VM that you stand up. The platform as a service, however, it takes that VM and it adds another layer, right? It's that middle tier that now you start talking about Azure functions, for example. You're talking about Redshift, or you're talking about Lambda, you're talking about the Google Cloud Platform application engine that you layer on top of that. And then finally, software as a service, you're talking about the fully managed application. This is your Office 365. This is your Salesforce, your Workday, your WebEx, your GoToMeeting. You don't do anything with that. You just subscribe to the service, you log on, and you use the application. So there is no reliance. You don't care about what the back-end infrastructure looks like. You don't care about, how much storage is there. You just know, hey, I want to go get to my email. I'm logging onto Office 365. I get that, right? I want to go to Salesforce to do my CRM. I just go and do that. So those are the different levels. And now, because I've built it up, I want you to understand that, Lenovo offers a solution, like other providers. But the question lies, is it simple, right? Standing this up doesn't sound simple, right? But what we have here is a strategy from Lenovo where we aim to be the trusted partner for any customer along their path and their journey to the cloud. And it's a function of us tying in not only hardware, but software, services, support, and everything else, including myself and Ryan and the entire CE Tech team, in order to deliver on that promise, right? So I'm gonna take you really quickly through the DCG cloud strategy. So what do? Lenovo as an institute, we partner with the industry software leading providers that are out there. The reason why we do that is we want to be able to give our customer base the largest range of choice. We want solutions for any cloud at any model that you want to go on to. We think that it's important for us not to lock you in into, say, here's only a VMware AWS offering, or here's only a Microsoft offering. No, we want to give you choice in terms of how you actually consume the cloud. We believe that there is a benefit, an overt benefit, for doing business with us on your journey in cloud based off of our hardware platforms, right? Over the years, we have continued to maintain the #1 in server reliability. So for those on-premise installations, it would behoove you to say, hey, why wouldn't I go with someone who, I guess, hardware won't go down? If I'm resting my mission critical workloads in this public cloud, private cloud, hybrid solution thing, let's put it on some hardware that's not gonna fail on us, right? And we have world record benchmarks to support that. And we offer the entire, pants pocket to the data center experience, whether it's servers, whether it's storage, whether it's networking. And then on the other side, when you're talking about VDI, we also have the IDG group that gives you the thin clients and the workstations and the monitors and everything else, right? So it's that end-to-end solution. We also support any customer path to the cloud, right? So we provide you with those building blocks that I talked about before in terms of component level hardware, whether they're servers, a combination of servers and switches, a combination of servers and switching and networking. And we'll also give you turnkey or all-in-one cloud solutions as well. And we'll back that up with superior customer experience. And we'll take you through a journey that'll take you from, an assessment, understanding the business requirements, through development and support, all the way through the lifecycle management of your solution. So what does that look like, all right? if you wanted to leverage the Lenovo hardware platform, on the very left-hand side, you'll see that we're talking about the Think System products, right? These are your servers. You can fully customize them. You know, you can choose to buy licensing from us or not. You can run bare metal solutions and then build your own system. So if you're trying to build, you know, a traditional 3-tier model and leverage some of the cloud application stacks, and you want to do it all yourself, you can do that through the Lenovo Think Systems, right? If you want to take it a step further and reduce some of the burden and overhead, we have what's called certified nodes, right? And we have nodes that are certified with VMware, with Microsoft, with Nutanix, that allow you to achieve some of that HCI benefits that can be the building blocks for the cloud, right? Taking a step up further, we have HCI appliances where you get the software and the hardware all in one from us, and we give you a more simplified experience. And then we ultimately end up with our turnkey cloud experiences, which we'll find out what those are based off of. And it's usually a Microsoft, and it's also our private cloud offering. We couple that with our professional services. So when you start down this journey, you want to have an assessment that happens. You want to have a workshop. You want to be able to deploy it, your clusters. You want to migrate your workloads over, and then you want to have the ongoing health checks and managed services if that's something that you're so desire. And we have that at the bottom. You'll see it's you know, our partners from Nutanix, from VMware, Microsoft, Red Hat, and SUSE as well. Go along with this journey, right? And we've had those great alliances and deep integration efforts that allow us to deliver you a seamless approach to that cloud experience. So we have 2 tracks, right? The customized cloud is based off of Think System and Think Agile. Red Hat, SUSE, the VMware software-defined data center, and the vCloud Suite, or VCF, is our approach to our customized cloud offerings. On our turnkey cloud offerings, we have the Think Agile CP platform. Now that's our own, you know, private IP, purpose-built composable cloud platform from Lenovo. And then we have a product called Think Agile SXM, or Think Agile MX, which basically is your Microsoft Azure HCI solution, right? And I'll show you what those look like in 2 seconds. So you want to go in on VMware, we have Think Agile VX solutions. We have a partnership where VMware, along with their public cloud software-defined data center, creates an environment in their cloud, right? And then you have another stack, so to speak, that sits on your premise. It uses VMware Cloud as the gateway to allow you to provide those hybrid IT services. So essentially think about replicating whatever you have on premise in a cloud of your choice, whether it's AWS, Azure, GCP, IBM, Alibaba, who cares? You'll have that same set of resources sitting in both places. You'll use VMware software-defined data center as the gap to bridge between the two. That's leveraging vSphere, it's leveraging NSX, and it's leveraging your vSAN environment, right? We have another offering if you want to do Think Agile VX, but you want to leverage Google and Google's platform. Basically, we're going to partner with Google, and Google's going to do the same thing as VMware, where they're going to put a on-premise set of equipment, and they're going to couple that and put one into their Google Cloud platform, and they're going to use Google Anthos as their way to deliver that solution, right? So you have a hybrid Kubernetes containerized infrastructure as a service delivery model. So those are the 2 components that we have for VMware solutions. But keep in mind, they're based off of the Think Agile VX models, which are the same building blocks that we have as far as like our servers, which you can get as the individual components. Now, moving on to the Nutanix offering, with the Nutanix hypervisor, the Acropolis hypervisor, we have a turnkey hybrid cloud offering. So essentially, Nutanix gives us the ability to say, we're going to use their Xi Leap for hybrid DR and backup and clustering technology to give you a connected environment between something that lives in their own Nutanix's cloud, or Google Cloud platforms, or AWS, or Azure, in fact. And Azure is just a more recent addition to their portfolio. But if you're sold on a Nutanix offering, you can buy the Think Agile HX solution from us, and you can get the benefit of a turnkey hybrid IT solution, which is in fact a hybrid cloud at that point. And then from Microsoft, you have the MX and the SXM model, right? So if you're Azure Stack HCI, you're basically looking at a set of tools, a set of defined nodes that sit on premise. You have the exact equivalent in Azure, and then you're able to leverage Azure Active Directory, the backup, the site recovery, and all of the other cloud services that are offered, including their marketplace, some of the databases, anything that's offered in Azure Direct, you'll have that on-prem. Same thing holds true for a larger implementation, SXM, which essentially is a predefined stack, and you have less control over how that looks. It comes to you delivered exclusively and managed by a predefined schedule where, you know, Microsoft puts out certain release of components and firmware updates, and it keeps it in sync. And you have to buy those in particular nodes, right? So you have to have, you know, 4, 8, or 12 at a time when you're actually looking to grow and standardize on that platform. And then finally, and this is the last slide here, we have Think Agile CP. Think Agile CP is our composable private cloud offering. This is a way for customers to realize, you know, the benefits of keeping everything on-prem, right? Not leveraging the public cloud for any means, but giving you that same cloud experience, that easy to use, self-service portable, the independent scaling of resources, whether it's from compute or from storage or even networking. There are plans that allows us to, at the application level, burst into the cloud to provide, you know, backup using, say, Veeam, for example, as a backup tool. You can still leverage, you know, all of the other services, whether it's from Azure, AWS, or Google, but at the application level. We're working on a hybrid roadmap that will give you the turnkey hybrid IT services, where you'll have a multi-cloud experience and leveraging all of the cloud providers, all within that private cloud instance. So now you become a truly hybrid cloud and private cloud offering, and you can turn things on and off if you are concerned about, you know, IP or HIPAA regulations or PII or PCI compliance, or you just want to be able to cut yourself off on the world and run things as usual, but you want the benefits of a cloud. This will give you that experience. So that was my last slide. I think I am about 20 minutes in. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Hey, we did have a couple questions come in the chat box. And so it looks like the first one is, what is Lenovo's approach with cross-cloud integration like Azure AADC?
Okay, so we don't have a preference. We don't have any restrictions. We actually allow and support, you know, the multi-cloud experience. It's part of our DNA, where we've always got given customers and partners, you know, flexibility of choice. So we actually started a project where we're using Red Hat OpenShift, right? And we're using their underlying tools to give us a multi-cloud experience. So essentially, you can pick, you know, workloads that are running in any cloud and manage that from a monitoring and a metrics capture, as well as a capacity planner that gives you the ability to look at, you know, where are my resources being spent? Is it more costly to run, you know, this workload on AWS versus Google? And we'll give you those tools that allow you to make that decision based off of the implementation of our solutions underneath the covers. So we support multi-cloud for sure.
Okay, that's awesome. And the next question that we had coming in is Lenovo adopting containerization like Kubernetes?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, we actually have that in the VMware Google Kubernetes engine that's part of the Google Anthos offering. We fully embrace containers. We fully embrace, you know, that experience totally. With the Red Hat OpenShift, I mean, that's a containerized environment as well. So we're leveraging that platform, and it doesn't have to be a hybrid cloud or any type of cloud solution, right? Just on the pure surface of containerized workloads, we support that on our platforms, right? We have API integrations that will allow us to interact and spin up these solutions, even to the point of our Think Agile CP has an open API where you can script everything, including the delivery of the workloads in containerized environments on that platform itself.
Thank you. Does
Yep.
anyone else have questions for Johnny? This has been just super helpful. Really appreciate it. Nice job going through this.
And it's okay. You guys can get ready to start drinking. I'm okay with that too.
Nice work though, Johnny. Very nice work.
Thank you. And if there's
Great job,
any,
John.
I would just leave that out for CE Tech or anybody. You know, we're here, we're partners for you guys, right? So we're here to help you through that experience. If there's conversations or questions that come to mind after this thing happens, or while you're having a drink or two, feel free to reach out. We're here for you, whether it's between me or Ryan or any of us from the Lenovo team. We will find the resources. If we can't get you the direct answer, we'll get you the resources. We'll line up a deep dive. We'll line up, you know, whatever experience that you need to have, whether it's customer references, whether it's, you know, reference architectures, you name it, we got it. We're here for you. So our goal is to make sure that you're successful on your cloud journey or any journey along the data center process. So
Thank you.
Johnny, thank you so much. I wanted to read a comment from Dan Gallivan who says, not a question, but just wanted to say great information and much appreciated. So thank you.
All right, anytime.
You made something that usually not interesting, but I think Greg's and Matt's yours is going to be a little more exciting.
Awesome.
It's easy to make that interesting, but Johnny, you did a nice job on really being a straight shooter with that information. So nice
Thank
work.
you, sir. Thank you.
All right, so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Alex and Greg.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much. Johnny, great job. I appreciate everybody's you know, the opportunity to be here today. We have some really, really fun products to go through. I'm not sure how in depth everyone is with the whiskey culture and the bourbon movement in America, but we have the pleasure today of speaking to one of the gentlemen that has had a huge hand in the influence of many, many influential brands that you see on the shelf today. Let me introduce myself first and foremost. My name is Alex Cottle. I work for Old Elk Distillery. I am the sales manager for the Eastern Control States. Some of you are probably familiar with them. The control state is simply something like New Hampshire, Vermont, or Pennsylvania. I know a lot of you in the Northeast, where the state controls the sale of the liquor, essentially going into a state, you know, a state-run liquor store. So I manage those markets. I work for, I mentioned Old Elk Distillery. We are owned by the family that owns OtterBox, the cell phone case company. I'm sure many of you are familiar. Most of you, I would say probably 60% of you have an OtterBox on your phone currently. With that said, our ownership, we got into the business about 7 years ago in 2013. Kurt and Nancy Richardson decided that they wanted to get into the brown spirits game, and they teamed up with one of the largest contract distillers at that time in the game, called MGP, is formerly known as Seagram's Distillery. And they teamed up with Greg at the time, who was the master distiller at MGP. So for us, we are one of the fastest growing craft brands in the country. In January 2018, we were distributed only in our home state of Colorado. Fast forward to January 2020. And we are distributed in all 50 states across the country. So without further ado, I will hand the reins off to Greg, and he can tell you a little bit about, you know, 5 minutes about his history, and then we'll hop right into the sampling. And then just so you guys are aware for the sampling, we're going to start with the flagship bourbon. We're going to move to the wheat whiskey, then the wheated bourbon, then the rye whiskey, and then we're going to finish up with the bourbon cream, which is a great finisher. But we're going to go through that route specifically, so we're utilizing our palate the right way. But without further ado, I will send this over to the man himself, Mr. Greg Metze.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having Old Elk and having me be part of your event this afternoon. Definitely get into the tasting very shortly, but real quick, I'll just give you a high-level overview of my career and how it started and how I got to be Master Distiller of Old Elk. So way back in 1978, I was graduating from the University of Cincinnati with a chemical engineering degree. And at that time, companies came to campus to recruit. And as it was, Seagram's, Joseph B. Seagram's and Sons, was on campus looking to fill positions at their Lawrenceburg, Indiana distillery. So I went through that interviewing process and was fortunate to have been offered a position there. And beyond that, I had really no idea what I was getting into. But fast forward, the other thing I didn't know was that I was going to actually get the best training in the world relative to becoming a master distiller from Joseph B. Seagram's and Sons. So I spent 38 years of my 42-year career at that facility. In 2002, Seagram's got out of the business altogether. And at that point, the distillery started becoming a contract distiller. So we were bought by Diageo and Pernod Ricard. They acquired all the Seagram brands. And we started contract distilling for Diageo as Pernod took over the facility. And about 8 years later, Pernod wound up selling the facility. We were acquired by a rich gentleman from Trinidad. And at that point, the facility became LDI. And that's when we became 100% contract distillers. We had lost all brand affiliation with Seagram's, with Pernod Ricard, and with Diageo. So from 2008 on, really the distillery was purely contract distillers. And I made many brands for many products for many brands. And it's actually how I met Old Elk 7 years ago. So they had come to the plant and were looking for me to actually craft custom mash bills for them and then produce them, which up to that point in my career, I had never had the latitude or the ability to create and craft custom mash bills from the ground up unrestricted. So it was a first for me, and the very first mash bill that we'll taste today is the Old Elk flagship bourbon. And it is very much a custom bourbon mash bill. There's really nothing else on the shelf like it from a mash bill status or from a distillate in a product status. And if you want, I can sort of go through each mash bill as we taste them. I think probably everybody's anxious to get to that point. I know I am. So if you want, let's go ahead and start with the flagship bourbon. It's a over a 5-year-old product as we speak, so there's no age statement with this product. The mash bill is actually 51% corn, which is the minimum for a bourbon. I included 15% rye to give the distillate a spice characteristic, and it takes a minimum of 15% rye in the mash bill to have that character carry over into the distillate. And that really left me room with 34% malted barley. So from a malted barley standpoint, it's 5 to 7 times higher than anything else on the shelf anywhere. All traditional bourbons, other than Old Elk, are usually in the 5 to 10% range for malted barley. So Kurt and Nancy, when they came to me 7 years ago, had given me 2 words to work with to create their mash bill. They said, we want the product to be smooth and easy. And that was it. That was the end of the meeting. And again, that was my first opportunity in my career to craft a custom mash bill. And then from there, then we crafted additional custom mash bills for Old Elk, which we'll taste today as well. So we've got a 95% wheat, 5% malt whiskey mash bill. We've got a wheated bourbon, which is 51% corn, 45% wheat, and 4% malt. And the rye whiskey that we'll taste is not a custom mash bill, but it's one of my favorites that I produced throughout my whole career at the Lawrenceburg facility, and it's the classic 95% rye, 5% malt. Very, very, very difficult mash bill to produce and have the quality come out as a world-class quality product. So from the standpoint of being technically difficult, and from the standpoint of really Lawrenceburg, Indiana made that mash bill famous. It's in Bullet Rye, it's in Templeton Rye, it's in High West. So it's that mash bill is sold under many, many, many different brands. Again, it's not a custom mash bill, but it's a very unique mash bill and very difficult to make. So, and I totally invite everybody to ask any and all questions as we go through this. Again, this is all about you guys and your event. So I'm just here to support you folks and, talk you through the products and the mash bills as we taste them. So if you want, let's just jump right in. We'll grab the Old Elk custom bourbon mash bill with the very high malted barley content. And again, when you smell and taste it, think of smooth and easy. Again, that's two characteristics that Kurt and Nancy gave me to work with. And I'll let you folks be the judge as to whether I hit that mark or not. This product, if it's not a cast strength product, is offered at 88 proof in the bottle on the shelf, and that was very intentional on my part. I wanted the proof to be high enough to put us in the premium category, but I didn't want the proof so high that it interfered the smooth and easy characteristics that they had tasked me to produce for them. So.
Thanks, Greg. We did get a comment come in. Joshua Cliff says, excellent flavor profile. The malted barley seems to smooth out the spice and the rye and the sweetness of the corn.
Nice, yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a gentler bourbon than, if all or most of you folks are bourbon aficionados, it's not going to be an in-your-face bourbon like you might be used to. And that because that I crafted it to be smooth and easy and high malted barley content, calms it down a bit compared to some of the more robust bourbons that are out there on the shelf. So.
We did get a question that came in about the custom ice ball mold. So everyone that's participating received one of those Old Elk ice molds. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. That was actually crafted in-house by one of our really brilliant marketing folks. They were in the office one day talking. I think our CEO, Luis Gonzalez, had been out and about and saw a custom custom ice ball mold on the shelf at one of the stores. And he's always about making something better or doing it better. And he brought that custom ice ball back to the office, and really all it was a traditional round ice ball with somebody's logo on it. So our marketing guy got to looking at it, and he said, well, wouldn't it be cool if we made this ice ball a replica of the mountains, which they overlooked at the office out there in Fort Collins, and then made it so that it floated in your glass as you drank it. So I think within about 8 hours, they had actually the marketing guy is a world-class sculptor as well, Anthony Tereza. And so he went out to the hobby store, got a ball of clay, and he carved out this ice mold that you folks have at his desk. When he had it all carved, they ran across the street to Otterbox, molded it, and literally within 8 hours, they had crafted a totally custom ice ball mold that is really, really fun and really cool.
Wow, that's so cool. What a neat story.
So I don't know. Yeah.
Would you like to kind of go into the slow cut proofing process that we use as well? I know that's might be. Yeah,
absolutely. So yeah, that besides our mash bills all being custom and different than everybody else's on the shelf, which is really Old Elk's DNA. We also incorporate what we call our slow proof gauging process. And we didn't invent it. It's been out there for a long time, but we're probably one of the only, if not few, folks that actually use it in their process. And what that means is whenever you reduce proof from barrel proof to bottling proof, it's actually a heat liberating reaction. So you're inducing heat back into your product as you cut it from high proof to low proof. And it's actually, if you do it in one step, or two steps, one big step or two steps, you actually can induce enough heat back into your product through that heat liberating reaction to actually drive off some of the really delicate congeners that you work so hard to produce through your mash bill, through cooking, fermentation, distillation, and maturation. So what we do to help preserve those really delicate high volatile congeners is rather than do it one step or two steps, we do it in many steps over about a 2.5 week period. And so we're going to use the same amount of water from start to finish as everybody else in the industry to cut from barrel proof to bottling proof. But by doing it in many steps and incrementally small amounts of water in every step, the amount of heat that goes into your product in every step is much smaller than it would be if you did it one step or two steps. And it actually it helps preserve the really delicate congeners that you work so hard to produce. It's extra steps that we take. It's more labor intensive. It costs a little more, but it's just really Kurt and Nancy Richardson have given us the benefit of being able to do things right and do it so that when we offer the customer a product, it's as good as it can possibly be made. So any product with Old Elk's name on it, from a quality perspective, is going to be a world-class spirit, and I can vouch for all that. I've produced it for them. I can't guarantee that you'll like the mash bills. That's a very subjective and very personal thing. But, again, from the quality perspective, I can tell you that they're as good as anybody's whiskey in the world, and I put my name behind that absolutely.
Guys, any questions, feel free to write them in the group chat, or if you want to speak with Greg, that works as well. But feel free, don't be shy. Again, like I mentioned, we have one of the, I would say, top 5, top 10 distillers of all time on our hands right now. So if there's anybody that wants to get technical, he can get very, very technical as well. If there's anything business related, question wise, I can help answer that. If you guys are looking for bottles in your area, anything along those lines, just please let us know.
And if you're ready to move on to the next tasting or the next product, just give me some kind of a cue and we can do that. So again,
yeah, I think we're ready.
Okay, and Alex said that we're going to go to the wheat whiskey next. Is that right, Alex?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So the wheat whiskey, again, is another very custom wheat whiskey mash bill. It's 95% wheat and it's 5% malt. There are other wheat whiskeys on the market and on the shelf. There are none of them that have that high of a wheat content, and I would say most, if not all, others on the shelf also contain a third cereal grain, whether it be rye or corn. So this is a very, very true authentic wheat whiskey. And again, it's I think on the shelf this is offered at 100 proof. And again, this product is 6 years old, I believe, right now. And again, it's got very nice maturity to it. And the fact of the matter is that I sampled these mash bills when they were 4 years old, the high wheat, and they weren't ready. I sampled them again at 5 years old, and they weren't quite ready. They just didn't have enough barrel note to carry it. And so at 6 years old, it's ready, and this product actually will get better with more age. So it's very unique. I would say it's going to be a category of its own. It's not a bourbon and it's not a rye whiskey. It's a wheat whiskey, so it's really in a category by itself, especially with that high of wheated content.
As people are sampling that, there's a couple more questions that came in. So one of them is, what would enhance the flavor? Is there any food pairing or a dish that they could have before or after the tasting?
We have the wrong person on board for that question. Mel is our mixologist out in Fort Collins, and she's world renowned. And if you want to provide those questions through Alex, we can certainly get those questions answered, maybe even before the show or the event ends. She would certainly have answers like that.
Okay.
Yeah, Mel's definitely the expert in that area. But one thing that I have heard in the past is if you could eat some chocolate, some dark chocolate, that definitely changes the flavor profile a little bit and enhances the palate. So that's definitely good. If you're looking to cleanse the palate a little bit, a nice little water soak is good as well.
Johnny comments, he says, all I can say is excellent. Mike says it smooths out the water and ice very nicely. I guess this is with the ice cube molds. We had a question, is this available in Rhode Island at all? I think the answer is yes, right? And this can be ordered in all 50 states?
Yep, absolutely. So I was actually just in Newport on Monday, visiting some accounts out there. So if you let me know, if you can just message me privately, whoever asked that, I can find the closest store to you, and we can line you up.
Okay, cool. And then another one came in. What does the aging process do to the flavor profile of a whiskey?
Oh, it's I'd say it's responsible for about half of the flavors that you recognize or see as you taste and smell. The mash bill, the way you cook and ferment it, and the yeast strains you use are all critical components at the beginning to produce the white distillate, which gives it very unique characteristics. But then the barrel adds the mellowing part of it, so you get a lot of nice oak tones from the barrel because they're white oak barrels. The barrels are actually charred on the inside, which exposes sugars and other components of the wood to the alcohol, and the alcohol is a solvent, so it's able to extract all types of different flavors from the white oak itself. So for me, I get oak, I get vanilla, I get some maple, and I actually get it predominantly and get some like almond type, almond extract type flavors that I'll see as I go through a tasting or a sensory analysis. Everybody's palate it's like a fingerprint, so they're all different. And what I see is not necessarily what you're going to see. And for that reason, I will talk about what I see, but I really disagree with a lot of the reviewers that are out there today, the expert reviewers, where they try to impose their will onto the consumer relative to what people think they should see when they buy or taste the product. And I don't think that's fair at all. I mean, that's whiskey and wines and any alcohol product is really like a food. So everybody's got everybody knows what they like and what they don't like. For folks to try to tell them what they should like and what they shouldn't like is really not fair. The only thing that I will proclaim again is that we will offer world-class quality products, and then it's up to the consumer to decide if they like our mash bills and so forth. Anyway, those are the components that I see that are primarily come from the barrel. And then different mash bills actually expose those type of flavors in different amounts. High corn content bourbons, as I said earlier, are more robust distillates, and they're usually higher in fusel oil contents, which is all part of the congener profile. Congener profile is just a whole mix of all these flavor components that people talk about. and it can be aldehydes and esters and a whole group of high alcohol chain components that we term as fusel oils in the industry. And if you have a higher corn content bourbon mash bill, the fusel oil content is going to be the more dominant group of flavors in the product. So Old Elk, by reducing the corn, like in our whiskey and our bourbon mash bill, I reduced it to the minimum to allow much more room for the malted barley. And what that does is it helps unmask some of those delicate congeners and smooth and easy congeners that are there. But if it were in a high corn content bourbon mash bill, they would be masked by the other components of the fusel oil components. So what you see in these products, because they're lower corn content mash bills, are actually really nice congeners that would normally be hidden. So that makes these products a little different than others that are on the shelf as well.
Awesome. We've been getting a ton of questions that are coming in. You guys feel free to take your microphones off mute and just chime in and ask Greg. One of the questions we had coming in is, does Old Elk make a single malt whiskey?
We do. It's not ready for market yet. So we've made that product at our craft distillery, and actually have made some when I was former master distiller at MGP for Old Elk. It's about 4 years old, and it's not ready, so it's got a ways to go. And that's the big reason is that it was produced in traditional style, so it's being aged in used barrels like an Irish whiskey would be. And it's going to take, maturity-wise, it's going to take more than the traditional 4 or 5 years. So it's aging nicely. But
Greg,
got a ways to go.
Hey, Greg, speak to that. What's your opinion about the kind of the surge from the Japanese single malt producers that were trying to do that rapid aging?
I will just say that I don't think it can ever cheat Mother Nature. I think.
So what was behind their science? I mean, what were they? How were they? Creating that effect that you get through time, in a single malt that sits in an aged barrel for some period of time. I mean, what were they chemically trying to re-engineer? How did they do that?
Well, I can't speak specifically to their process, but I know other processes have used, there's a multitude of ways to do it. I know ultrasonic is one of them, where they actually will subject the barrel to ultrasonic vibration, if you will, to try to, enhance or promote the speed of maturation. There's folks that, I don't know, there's all kinds of different ways that they try to do it. For me, I'm very much a traditionalist, and I have seen quick age products. I know there's something called spiral sticks, where they do a spiral of oak and different types of oaks and different levels of char, different levels of toast. And the idea behind those spiral sticks is you get more surface area. So you would think that would promote or speed up the process, because you've got more surface area than you would just a traditional barrel. But I've looked at a lot of those different quick aged products, and for me, there's no substitute for Mother Nature and waiting the 4 or 5 years or whatever, depending on the mash bill it takes, for Mother Nature to take its course. So I am not a proponent, I guess,
Yeah, I was going to say, Greg, I know a lot of the home brewers at the homebrew shops who make beer. They use a lot of those spiral sticks and stuff like that. I've seen them on the shelves.
And I actually experimented with some of those in Lawrenceburg years ago, and it just doesn't have the effect that they advertise. At least that was my finding. I'm not going to say here sit here and say that it doesn't work for other folks, but it didn't work for me.
So I think up next we have the weeded bourbon, and I guess if we want to do the tasting of that, and then I'll kind of go through and make sure that we get to everyone's questions.
Okay, so yeah, third in line is our weeded bourbon, and the mash bill again is 51% corn for bourbon. That's the minimum, and that allowed me room for 45% wheat and 4% malt. So again, there are other weeded bourbons on the market. Maker's Mark is one of the more popular ones. Very good product, but their wheat content is considerably lower than the wheat content in this mash bill. So again, from a on shelf perspective, there's no other product even close to this mash bill in the weeded bourbon category. So again, it's the high wheat and the lower corn content is going to expose different congeners that would normally be in a higher corn content bourbon mash bill. So
Cheers.
and this product is a 5-year-old product. So because of the high wheat and the lower corn content, it needed more age to carry it.
Of the 4 that we're sampling, what's your most popular product?
Oh boy, Alex could probably answer that better than myself. I mean, a lot of folks always ask me what's my favorite, and I will never answer that question because
Well, I kind of figured that.
Each one's a different category, and I just think, well, you can drink this category today and this other category tomorrow. They're all. To pick a favorite is really kind of an unfair question because they are all entirely different categories. So, and they're all very unique. So,
it's like you mentioned earlier, right? Everybody's got a different palate.
Yeah, but I think popularity-wise, really the wheat whiskey and the wheat bourbon is really just hitting the market as we speak. So. Seems to be gaining traction really fast. It's been out on the market in cask strength in our barrel program for maybe 6 months or thereabouts, and based on the buzz through that program, I think it's going to be well received. But Old Elk Flagship Bourbon is performing quite well in its category, and again, I think I would let Alex speak to that. He's probably got more data than I do relative to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Mark. Like Greg said, the wheat whiskey, weeded bourbon, and rye that you guys are about to sample are new to market. They're line extensions for us. The flagship product has been out and about in market for about a little over 2.5, 3, coming up on 3 years. So I think that's the most well-established brand. But I think that people with a little more experienced palate are really leaning towards our higher proof offerings. The wheat whiskey coming in at 100 proof, the weeded bourbon at 92, and the rye at 100. Our Old Elk Flagship was intentionally, bottled at 88 proof to bring in a segment of the consumer market that maybe is a novice bourbon drinker. Maybe they don't think they like whiskey. So it's more of an entry-level product. But with that said, I think that you guys are really going to enjoy the rye here when we try it here in a second. That has been, I know that is one of our higher priced products, but it's had a really, really good response. We just got a double gold award and a 96 rating in the International Spirits Competition. We also took Best American Rye in that as well. So you'll definitely hear a little bit more about it. For us as a company, we are on the verge of becoming an avalanche, so to speak. We've positioned ourselves very strategically for the last 5-7 years. And now that all of our product is ready and is of age, and we've had the ability to allow it to become of age and not have to release product that's a little young just to generate cash flow. So you guys are on the front edge, on the cutting edge of one of the quickest craft growing brands in the country. I like to say we're craft with capital, because we do have that capital behind us. And this is an industry where you need a lot of startup to be stable for the long-term success of the brand.
Alex, a couple more questions for you that have come in. Does Old Elk sell sampling kits, or are these samples kind of unique to the tasting event that we're doing today?
Yeah, so these are definitely unique to the event today. We have talked about some sort of 200 milliliter sampling kit, moving to more of a digital realm where maybe there's 3 or 4 dates throughout a quarter that folks who buy a sample kit have the opportunity to come and talk to Greg and myself, or our head distiller Kate Douglas, or like Greg mentioned, our CEO Luis Gonzalez, who is just a bulldog out there and making things happen. He's a pleasure to speak to. But it is in the works. It's something we're looking forward to, or looking into more from a cost standpoint, a legality standpoint.
Kate Taylor is wondering how many cases of Old Elk are sold every year. Any idea?
Last year we were, I think we were in like the 15 to 20,000 case realm.
Yes, correct. Last year's 20,000 cases. This year projections should be more than double that range. So we are in a pretty good spot.
And Greg, we have a couple more questions around the one we just sampled, or I guess this one is going back to the wheated whiskey. What type of barrel is the wheated whiskey finished in?
All the products that you're sampling today are all new charred white oak barrels, and the char level is a number 4 on the sides and a number 2 on the heads. So they're all very traditional, industry accepted barrels. Most of them are probably made by the 2 best and biggest suppliers in the industry, Independent Stave and Speyside.
Okay. Thank you. Can you confirm, so Nelson says, can you confirm what I thought were 3 main ingredients for bourbon? One is the 51% corn in mix, 2, distilled in Kentucky, and 3, aged in virgin oak barrels. I see brands from New York like Hudson Valley 4 grain. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Probably the most common misconception of a bourbon that you hear is that bourbons have to be made in Kentucky, and that is not true. Kentucky has done a very good job of claiming that territory as their backyard, and they do a great job, and they make great products. But from a TTB standpoint, which is tax. They're the regulators of the business, put that way, TTB, and they set the rules for what constitutes a distilled product being a bourbon. So for a bourbon, it has to be a minimum of 51% corn, and the other 49% can be whatever you want, and whatever percentages you want. So as long as you're at 51% corn, that's the first hurdle for a bourbon. It has to be put in a barrel at 125 proof or below. So when you generally distill it, well, you can distill it from like 120 to 160 proof, but most folks distill their products at 130 to 135 proof. And then you have to cut it from that proof to 125 or below before you put it in the barrel. So that's one of the hurdles. The barrels have to be new charred white oak barrels. You can't use a previously used barrel for bourbon. And actually, bourbon here in the States are the only folks in the industry that use new charred white oak barrels. Everybody else in the industry rum, Scotch, Irish whiskey, they all take the once used barrels from the bourbon makers here in the States to put their product in.
Well, people are loving it. We're getting just awesome comments coming in. Someone says, thank you for keeping the ABV above 43. Better product, in my opinion, at these levels. Weeded bourbon wins. It's really good, especially compared to the other ones. If the weeded bourbon is just coming onto market, where can I get some? Same for the weeded whiskey. Can that all be purchased through Norfolk Wine and Spirit? I'll resend out the promo code, the CTech promo code, where you can order this online directly through the store. Is the weeded bourbon on the market? And I guess same thing for the weeded whiskey. Can they all buy that now through Norfolk?
Yeah, so all of that will be available at Norfolk. Elias did say in this thread, if it's out of state, just shoot me a private message, and I'll be able to locate the retailer that's closest to you that has bottles.
All right, awesome. Peeler is saying the weeded bourbon is very good. Da Vinci says love the smooth sweetness. So this is great. You guys ready to go on to the next one?
Sure. So the next one that we're going to is the 95% rye, 5% malt rye whiskey mash bill.
And
again,
I'm just gonna, Greg, just cut you off real quick. Sorry, but just so everybody knows, Greg has been deemed the godfather of rye within the whiskey and bourbon community. He's very humble about it, but I will make sure that everybody knows he's distilled over 10 million bottles of rye in his career. So this, for me, I know he doesn't say what his favorite is, but this is one of my favorites, personally.
That's pretty cool.
So again, this is the same mash bill that really the Lawrenceburg Distillery made famous over the last 25 years. It's the rye whiskey. It's a category absolutely all by itself. There's other rye whiskeys on the market. The majority of them are 51% rye and 49% other things. This is the real McCoy. It's 95% rye, 5% malt. That's it. That's about as high as you can go without going to commercial enzyme to get, unless you use 100% malted barley, or 100% rye malt, I'm sorry. But in any case, as I talked earlier, it's a really hard mash bill to produce. The rye grain has all kinds of components in it that is different than corn, that makes it really hard to mash, really hard to ferment, and really hard to distill. And, you know, really, I learned how to make this product through my secret training. It's been part of their, they've made that mash bill for longer than I've been in the business. So they created this, Sequence created this mash bill many years ago. And it was, you know, a component of their blended whiskeys over all the years that they were in business. But as we became contract distillers, and as rye became popular over the last, say, 15 years, the Lawrenceburg Distillery, through this mash bill, through their ability to be able to produce that mash bill and have the quality come out the way it does, it's really what put Lawrenceburg on the map. So this is not a custom old elk mash bill, but again, it's one of my favorites, primarily because it's a category of its own again, which describes all the other distillates that we've tried today, but also from the standpoint that it's really, really technically hard to make, and you know, to have it come out right is very gratifying. So there's a lot of, for me, there's a lot of spice characteristic in that product. Rye brings, at least for me, like a clove spice characteristic. Now, other folks maybe see it differently, and that's, you know, that's all good. But it's, you know, compared to other distillates like we've tried today, it's much higher in that spice characteristic.
Right. The popularity of rye come up, because I know rye is very, very popular in Canada. And, you know, I think you see an uptick in rye purchase and consumption here in the States, but rye is really kind of, you know, associated with Canada.
Yeah, and I think, you know, for many, many, many years, that was probably primarily driven by the fact that that was the most available grain for a lot of those folks in that part of the country. But the rye whiskey category, I think over the last 15 years, has really gained a lot of traction and a lot of popularity. And, you know, I think because of this mash bill that we're trying today, it was promoted by folks like High West and Templeton and Bullet Rye. So, you know, a lot of those folks, you know, I produced that product for those folks, and really through their marketing and distribution, they're really probably the primary groups that really started the popularity of this rye whiskey category.
So well, kudos to you, because I personally really like the Bullet Rye.
Yeah.
So if my education is correct, rye came to the States before bourbon, correct? It was rye first and then bourbon?
Yeah, you know, actually George Washington had a small distillery, and he was primarily rye because that was the most available grain. So, you know, as the pioneers, if you will, move from the East down to the Midwest, you know, corn wound up being the most readily available crop, and that's really sort of the way bourbon was born.
Greg, just so you know, you definitely live up to the reputation of being, I think Alex called it just the godmaster of rye whiskeys. Da Vinci says, I know we're not done, but the straight rye whiskey is a winner. Very impressive. Jeff Goldman says, intense rye. Wow. Ron says, wow, this is really impressive. So everyone's really enjoying it. Nice one. Rye is awesome. Big fan of, Josh says, big fan of the original Willett family 4-year rye. I'd put this in the same category. Great job.
Good, thank you.
And I should let anyone know, so CE Tech does ship alcohol anywhere. So you guys can just reach out to us. We'll hook you up. We'll get you these wherever you are.
This is recorded? Uh-oh.
All right, are we cracking the can?
Yeah, definitely. So the next on the list is our product called Nuku. It's a bourbon cream product, and it's a really complicated recipe. It's 2 components. It's fresh dairy cream, and it's Old Elk bourbon, 2-year-old Old Elk bourbon. That's it. There's no preservatives. There's no flavors. There's no sugar. There's no neutral grain spirits. It is a purely legitimate 2-component bourbon cream. The cans are very new to the market. I think they're just actually hitting the shelves almost as we speak. But the Nuku product has been out for probably going on 3 years. And again, it's really special. And I think, you know, when you taste it, you'll see why. There's many other bourbon creams on the market, but this is, again, this is a very unique and different product compared to others.
So Greg,
this product is
60s.
What's that?
The pop top brings me back to the 60s.
Oh, yeah. PBR.
Nothing wrong with those.
What do people
I think that this product's very unique on premise. It's a very unique product. It's very versatile. You can drink it over ice. You can drink it neat. You can do boozy milkshakes, root beer floats. We have, if any of you guys are bakers or chefs, we have accounts that do cheesecakes, creme brulees, bread pudding,
ice cream,
banana breads. It's a very, very cool product. Ice cream, poured over some ice cream. It's very, very good. I think that two of you may have received the coffee versions. We have a cold brew can version. Two of you may have received it. If you did, that product just launched last week nationally. So if your local liquor store doesn't carry it, ask them to. It's a fantastic product. It's cold brew in a can mixed with Nuku bourbon cream. And as Greg mentioned, there's no preservatives, no artificial ingredients, no additives. The product holds a 2-year shelf life and does not need to be refrigerated after you open. The recipe was developed, I believe it was developed 5 or 6 years ago in the Netherlands. That's all I really know about the product, but it's fantastic.
Agreed. This is really, really good. People are agreeing. Just is very good. A couple people asked over ice, which I think you said yes. It sounds like it's very versatile. I actually added it to my coffee earlier today, admittedly, and it was fantastic. So nice job, guys.
Really good on ice cream and cake, too. There's actually a peppermint version for the holidays also that's quite good. It's very mildly flavored with peppermint.
Does anyone else have questions or comments? Feel free to come off of mute and just chime in. Someone did ask, how old is the rye?
The rye, I think, is 6 years old, I believe. Or 5 years old, I'm sorry. It's 5 years old. Maybe 5 and a half. It's going on 6. I can look it up real quick. I think it's 5 and a half.
Yeah, it's a 5-year minimum on the rye. I think Greg's going to look it up right now, but it should be turning 6 this fall. And in the thread, I just added a couple articles, one from Whiskey Advocate that goes over the line extensions that are new. It's a great article. If you guys aren't familiar with Whiskey Advocate, it's one of the leading online sources for all whiskey. And then we have a Gear Patrol article. It is titled The Greatest Whiskey Maker You've Never Heard Of is Finally Getting Its Due. If you guys aren't familiar with Gear Patrol, it's a very, very large online publication with about 250,000 unique monthly visitors. And then I definitely would recommend that everybody just scroll to the top. Sarah left a little YouTube clip that we utilized a couple years ago. That's a really good overview of kind of Greg in general.
So the rye is a minimum of 5 years old, but it's actually going on 6. It's about 5.8 years old at this point.
Well, very
guys,
impressive.
I would definitely.
Everybody, I think this is a great event, and thank you, CE Tech, for inviting all of us. This was, kind of a great way to socialize, but via a screen, I guess, and enjoy some quality spirits. So thank you very much.
Been fun for me. I enjoy it.
As soon as
I'll
the
second
camera
that.
goes off, I'm going to break open the big bottle.
Thanks, guys. I really
Thanks, Mark. No, we appreciate that comment. I really appreciate everyone jumping on. I mean, in these unique times that we're in, we're always looking for kind of creative, innovative ways to bring everyone together to learn about technology, hybrid cloud just being one of the most relevant topics in the industry, and pairing that with something that clearly a lot of people enjoy. We had up to 50 participants at one point. So this is a big hit, and we'll continue to do these. So thank you.
Great. And hey, Alex, just as a side note, my son, who is in your target demographic, I think, capitalizing on these and getting some samples out like that, like some of these starter kits, is going to get people more engaged because, for somebody that's, late 20s, early 30s, who's really just kind of venturing into, these types of spirits, beyond the vodkas and the clears, they're reluctant to make an investment of a $30 or $40 bottle of whiskey, not knowing if they're going to like it. So by having something like this, I think is a perfect, target mechanism for that type of demographic that you're looking at.
Absolutely agree, Mark. I appreciate the insight. Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that. We're definitely working on the, especially as Sarah mentioned, the climate that we're working in today seems to be, everything's through a screen, so why not capitalize on it? But I appreciate the feedback. If anybody finds themselves out in Fort Collins, Colorado, please reach out to Sarah or myself. Get in touch with us. We have a room out there. It's called The Reserve. You can get products out there that are only available there. And it's a beautiful town. Fort Collins, Colorado is home to Otterbox. It's home to Woodward Governor, which is a huge government contractor that makes Governor's planes. It's also home to New Belgium Brewery. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with that as well. So there's a lot of cool things happening up in northern Colorado. And we're really excited to be a part of it.
Alex, what you should do is you should promote that if you on your third bottle of Old Elk, that you get a free OtterBox case, because if you're drinking that much whiskey, you're probably going to drop your phone.
We've teamed up with them on some mail-in rebates and some events. So you definitely keep your eyes peeled and market. I think there's a sweepstakes right now running on. If you hop on our website, you might be able to enter. But OtterBox has a cooler line that competes with Yeti, and I think that they're giving away a couple coolers. So definitely take a look into that. But yep, absolutely, we definitely utilized OtterBox and their reach to help us build our brand. So our offices are 100 feet apart, as Greg mentioned earlier. So we utilize them as much as we can.
Thanks, everyone. On behalf of CTEC, we appreciate you guys joining us. Hope you enjoyed it as much as us, and we look forward to hopefully getting together for an in-person drink in the very near future. Thanks,
A lot of fun. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you all.
Stay safe.
Cheers, everybody.
Yeah.
Cheers.
One last time.